End Zone presented by TiVo rolls on here in New York and Atlanta. I am Eagle Jason Horowitz. Glad to be with you on CBSSports.com and your TiVo DVR via TiVo Cast. It's Randy Cross with us in Atlanta. But we're not going to focus on either of those two cities for the moment. We're going to focus on Motown. And the college focus this weekend, some of it will be in the state of Michigan. It's the battle for the Paul Bunyan Axe, Michigan State. And at Ford Field, how about this, guys? The Lions trying to get to 4-0 at home when they welcome the Denver Broncos, and Detroit is 5-2 this week. Simply put, are they for real?
Randy, do you notice a little strut in Jason's step right now? This is an emotional topic.
Was it the Paul Bunyan axe?
I think that's what it was. It might have been that. I just
have we not figured out that I'm from Michigan before?
I just sense
have we not discussed this?
You're taking this topic a little more seriously this week than the other topics.
This is the game of the week.
You have more notes on the Lions. It's strange. It's coincidental. Well, let's answer the question for you, because really we have to take you out of the equation here
I can
to
go
look
sit
at
in the
it.
control room for a few minutes.
You know what? I think Randy and I would like that, in fact. No. You stay here. You stay here. Here's the thing about Detroit offensively, Randy, that has stood out for me. Look, Mike Martz is pass happy. We know that. He's always been pass happy throughout his career as a play caller. I do think, though, that he recognizes that Kevin Jones is a big help to this team, and they're getting a bit more balance. That rushing number is creeping up as the weeks go by, and I think Jones is a better fit for Martz than Tatum Bell. And with that said, I've noticed a bit on their offensive play calling that, look, they're calling some more underneath stuff. That's not normally something Mike Martz does. They're not relying on the deep vertical passes as they were maybe earlier in the season. And I think when the smoke clears, Randy, that's really going to benefit them and make them a legitimate playoff contender in the NFC.
I think you're absolutely right. I like what Rod Marinelli has brought there defensively.
Yep.
It's brought, and not so much that they didn't have talent in the past. I think he's brought in a new level of accountability. And they've played very disciplined defense, and they're kind of fun to watch on the defensive side for all the attention they get on the offensive side. But in this matchup, I mean, good God. Green Bay ran on Denver. Denver's the worst running defense in the NFL. So you can talk about Mike Martz and all his pretty little patterns and route trees and everything else. They ought to just wear Kevin Jones out and then play action them to death in this game. They should really be able to pile up some serious yards against the Denver Broncos.
You brought up a good point about Detroit running the football more, the rushing yards getting up there a little bit more every single week. For the last 2 weeks, and this is something that you can't even fathom when you talk about Mike Martz, they've actually called more running plays than they have passing plays. And that's something that you can't even think about. And you hit Kevin Jones, he's coming back from the injury, and that has been the key for this Detroit team. But, Detroit has had weapons in the past offensively, but they haven't had the defense to get off the field. This year, Randy hit on it a little bit, Detroit Lions defense leads the NFL in takeaways, and they're scoring points off of that. That's been the key.
And another big part, and I think credit has to be given to Martz and to Marinelli, adapting to their talent, not necessarily sticking with what made them considered good coaches on an individual basis. Marinelli is a cover 2 guy. And last week, what did they do? They sent 5, 6, 7 players at Brian Griese. Normally in a cover 2 defense, you rely on your front 4 to wreak some havoc up front.
Maybe a 5th guy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case last week. And that shows me that they're willing to adapt to their personnel. That means that they recognize they may have something here. It's not just based on what they do as coaches, that when coaching is married with talent, you can actually go on a run and have something a little special, Randy, in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for this game specifically on Sunday, don't you have a feeling that they're going to change things up a little bit on the Denver Broncos? They know the Denver Broncos love to run the ball. They run that zone blocking scheme, that old one cut, put your foot in the ground and go. And Jay Cutler's a quarterback, for all the blathering on about this guy's unbelievable talent and this unbelievable arm and yada, yada, yada. He's still a young quarterback. And with a defense that does produce turnovers, that does produce points off turnovers, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 opportunities where the Cutler will put that ball in play. And the way that this 2007 Detroit Lions defense is playing, they're going to make them pay for it.
And the nice part about the 2007 Detroit Lions, you don't have fans in the stands with bags over their heads saying, "Fire Matt Millen." There's no thoughts about that right now because they're a winning product. for the first time since 1999 when they started the season 6-2, and that was the year that Barry Sanders had retired.
Look, Randy knows Matt. I know Matt. Matt is a good football guy.
Oh,
I never doubted that for a moment.
Without a doubt.
I think, they had a couple of tough breaks. I didn't like some of their drafts. Obviously, they went wide receiver happy year after year after year. If Matt Millen is going to take all of the blame as he did in the past, he deserves some of the credit this year. He's put together a good football team.
Yes, he has.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we always talk about the key is you've got to get people that do what you do well. What did they do for the last 10 years? It was hard to put your finger on exactly what kind of football player. You can look at a linebacker and go, that's a Steeler linebacker. You can go to a defensive tackle and go, you know what, that's a Patriots defensive tackle. What do you look at when you see a Detroit Lion? They probably got a bag on their head, like you said. They've gone a long way towards chasing that thing this year.
Yes, they have. For a long time, you looked at the Lions, you saw Barry Sanders. That's what you thought about the Lions. Now you think of them as an actual team, and Rod Marinelli gets the credit. Randy, thank you very much for this week. Have a very safe trip to, where are you going? You're going to New Orleans, Jacksonville at New Orleans. We will see you on that game on CBS on Sunday, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next week.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, guys, the End Zone presented by TiVo rolls on. We're going to hand out some mid-season awards here. And just a thought, Rod Marinelli may be on that list. It's just a thought. The End Zone presented by TiVo continues on CBSSports.com and on your TiVo DVR via TiVo Cast.